Welcome back to Easy English Talk Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Easy English Talk Podcast. It's wonderful to have you here with us today. Hi, Priya. How has your day been so far?
Hi, Ryan. My day has been really good. Thank you for asking. I had a quiet morning with some coffee and reading, which was nice. How about you? What have you been up to today?
That sounds peaceful. My day started early with a walk, and then I spent some time preparing for our discussion today. It's been productive so far. Now, before we begin, I'd love to know where all of you are listening from right now. Are you at home, commuting, or maybe taking a break from work?
Yes, we're always curious about our listeners. And we'd also love to hear if this podcast is helping you improve your English and your personal growth. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. We read them, and they really inspire us to keep creating helpful content for you.
Absolutely. Your feedback means everything to us. Today, we are discussing how to use be, been, and being in English. These three words confuse many learners, even those who have studied English for years. They look similar, they come from the same verb, but they work very differently in sentences.
That's exactly right. And if you clicked on this episode, it's probably because you've struggled with these words before. Maybe you've paused mid-sentence, unsure whether to say, I have been or I am being. Or perhaps you've written something and wondered if you used the right form. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand exactly when and how to use each one.
So why do these three words cause so much confusion? Well, the main reason is that they all come from the verb to be, which is one of the most important verbs in English. But each form has a different job and appears in different grammar structures. If you don't understand these structures, it's easy to mix them up.
Another reason is that many languages don't have the same system of verb forms that English does. So when learners translate from their native language, they often choose the wrong form. They might say, I am go, instead of I am going, or I have be there, instead of I have been there. These mistakes happen because the grammar rules in their language are different.
Let's start by understanding what each word actually is. Be is the base form of the verb. It's what you see in the dictionary. You use it with modal verbs like can, will, should, and must. You also use it in the infinitive form, like to be.
For example, you might say, I want to be a teacher, or she will be here soon, or you should be more careful. In all these sentences, be comes after another verb or modal. It doesn't stand alone as the main verb in a sentence unless you're giving a command, like be quiet or be kind.
Now let's talk about been. This is the past participle form of the verb to be. It's used in perfect tenses, which are tenses that connect the past to the present or show completed actions. You'll see been after the helping verbs have, has, or had.
So when you say, I have been to Paris, you're using the present perfect tense. This means you visited Paris at some point in your life, and that experience is still relevant now. If you say, she has been sick, it means she was sick recently, and maybe she's still recovering. The word been always needs a helping verb before it.
And then we have being, which is the present participle or gerund form. This one is a bit more complex because it can work in two different ways. First, it can be part of a continuous tense, combined with a form of to be. Second, it can act as a noun or gerund, meaning it represents the action itself.
Let's look at the first use. When being is part of a continuous tense, you combine it with am, is, or are. For example, he is being rude means he is acting rude right now, in this moment. It's a temporary behavior. You could also say, they are being very helpful today, which suggests their helpfulness is specific to today, not necessarily their usual behavior.
The second use of being is when it acts as a noun. For example, you might say, being honest is important, or I enjoy being outdoors. In these cases, being refers to the state or action of something, and it functions like a noun in the sentence. This can feel abstract at first, but it becomes natural with practice.
Now that we've introduced all three forms, let's talk about the biggest mistake learners make. The most common error is confusing been and being in sentences. People often say, I have being there instead of I have been there, or he has been working instead of he has been working. These mistakes happen because learners don't fully understand which helping verb goes with which form.
Exactly. Here's a simple rule to remember. If you're using have, has, or had, the next word should be been, not being. And if you're using am, is, or are, the next word should be being if you're describing a temporary action or behavior. Let's practice this with some examples so it becomes clearer.
Good idea. Let's start with be. Imagine someone asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You might answer, I want to be a doctor. Here, be comes after the verb want, and it expresses a future possibility or goal. You're not a doctor now, but you want to become one.
Another example, you must be tired after such a long day. In this sentence, be comes after the modal verb, must, and it expresses a logical conclusion. The speaker is guessing that you're tired based on the situation. You can't say you must been tired or you must being tired. It doesn't work grammatically.
Now let's move to been. If someone asks, have you ever been to Japan? They're asking about your life experience up to now. Your answer might be, yes, I have been there twice, or no, I haven't been there yet. The word been works with have to show that this action is connected to the present moment. Here's another example. She has been working here for 5 years. This is the present perfect continuous tense. It means she started working here 5 years ago, and she's still working here now. The action began in the past and continues into the present. If you remove been and say she has working here for 5 years, the sentence is incorrect. Let's also look at the past perfect. If you say, I had been waiting for an hour when he finally arrived, you're showing that the waiting happened before another past action. The waiting came first, and then he arrived. This is why we use had been instead of just had or was. It shows the relationship between two past events.
Now let's talk about being. Remember, being is used in continuous tenses to describe temporary actions or states. If you say, she is being very quiet today, it suggests that her quietness is unusual or specific to today. It's not her normal behavior. This is different from saying she is quiet, which describes her general personality.
Another example, why are you being so difficult? This question suggests that the person's difficult behavior is happening right now, and it's not their usual personality. It's a temporary state. If you wanted to describe someone's permanent personality, you would say, you are difficult, without being.
There's also the passive voice with being. For example, the house is being painted right now. This means someone is painting the house at this very moment. It's an action in progress. If you say, the house has been painted, it means the painting is finished. The action is complete. Do you see the difference?
Yes, and this is where many learners get confused. They mix up is being done with has been done. The first one means the action is happening now, and the second one means the action is already finished. For example, the report is being written means someone is writing it right now. The report has been written means it's already complete.
Let's also discuss being as a gerund or noun. When you say being a parent is challenging, the word being acts as the subject of the sentence. It represents the state or experience of being a parent. You could also say, I love being a student, where being is the object of the verb love.
Another example, being late is disrespectful. Here, being late is the subject, and it's treated as a thing or concept. You're talking about the act of being late, not about a specific person. This use of being is more advanced, but it's very common in formal and everyday English.
So now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about how to avoid common mistakes. The first step is to identify which tense you're trying to use. Are you talking about the present, past, or future? Are you describing a completed action, an ongoing action, or a habit? Once you know the tense, you can choose the correct form.
If you're using a modal verb like can, will, should, or must, you need the base form be. If you're using have, has, or had, you need been. If you're using am, is, or are to describe a temporary behavior, you need being. It sounds simple, but it takes practice to recognize these patterns quickly.
Another helpful tip is to listen carefully to how native speakers use these words. Watch English movies, listen to podcasts like this one, or read books and articles. Pay attention to the sentences where be, been, and being appear. Try to notice the pattern, what word comes before them and what comes after them.
You can also practice by writing your own sentences. Start with simple sentences and gradually make them more complex. For example, write 5 sentences using be, 5 using been, and 5 using being. Then check your sentences with a teacher, a language partner, or an online grammar tool to see if you use them correctly.
Let's do a quick comparison to make the differences even clearer. Imagine you're talking about a trip to London. If you say, I want to be in London next year, you're using be because it follows the verb want and refers to the future. If you say, I have been to London before, you're using been because you're describing a past experience with present relevance.
And if you say, I am being serious about visiting London, you're using being to emphasize that your seriousness is happening right now, in this moment. Each sentence has a different meaning, and the choice of be, been, or being changes the entire message. That's why understanding these forms is so important.
Let's also talk about some tricky situations where learners often make mistakes. One common error is using been when they should use being. For example, someone might say, "He has been rude to me today," when they mean, "He is being rude to me today." The first sentence suggests he has been rude over a period of time, while the second describes his behavior right now.
Another mistake is forgetting to use been in the present perfect tense. For example, saying, "I have to the store," instead of "I have been to the store." Without been, the sentence is incomplete and doesn't make sense. Always remember that have and has need been when you're talking about completed actions or experiences.
There's also confusion with the passive voice. Learners sometimes say, "The work is been done," instead of "the work is being done" or "the work has been done." The key is to match the helping verb correctly. Is goes with being for ongoing actions, and has goes with been for completed actions.
Let's practice with a few more examples to really lock this in. If someone asks, "Where do you want to be in 5 years?" you would answer with be, because it's about your future goal. You might say, "I want to be living abroad," or "I want to be running my own business." The word be here expresses possibility and desire.
If someone asks, "Have you been studying English for a long time?" you would answer with been because it's about your experience over time. You might say, "Yes, I have been studying for 3 years," or "No, I have only been learning for a few months." The word been connects your past actions to the present.
And if someone asks, "Why are you being so quiet?" you would answer with an explanation of your current behavior. You might say, "I'm being quiet because I'm tired," or "I'm just being thoughtful today." The word being here describes a temporary state, not your usual personality.
Let's also discuss how these words appear in questions. When you form a question with be, you might ask, "Will you be there tomorrow?" or "Can I be honest with you?" The base form be follows the modal verb, just like in statements. It's the same structure, just rearranged as a question.
For questions with been, you might ask, "Have you been to this restaurant before?" or "Has she been feeling better?" Notice how the helping verb have or has comes first, followed by the subject, and then been. This is the standard question structure for the present perfect tense.
And for questions with being, you might ask, "Why are you being so secretive?" or "Is he being difficult again?" The continuous form being is used to question someone's current behavior. It often carries a sense of surprise or curiosity about why someone is acting a certain way right now.
It's also important to understand how these words work in negative sentences. For example, "I don't want to be late" uses be after the infinitive to. If you say, "I have not been there," you're using been with the helping verb have in the negative form. And if you say, "He is not being fair," you're using being to describe an unfair behavior happening now.
The negative forms follow the same grammar rules as the positive forms. The only difference is the addition of not or the contraction nt. So instead of "I have been," you say "I have not been," or "I haven't been." Instead of "she is being," you say "she is not being," or "she isn't being." The structure stays the same.
One more important point is understanding the difference between been in the present perfect and been in the past perfect. If you say, "I have been tired all week," you're talking about a state that started in the past and continues to now. But if you say, "I had been tired before the vacation," you're talking about a state that ended in the past.
This distinction is subtle but very important. The present perfect with have been or has been connects the past to the present. The past perfect with had been shows that something happened before another past event. It's all about the relationship between different points in time.
Let's also talk about how being can be used in more advanced structures. For example, in the sentence, "Being a good listener requires patience," the word being acts as a gerund and serves as the subject. This is a more sophisticated use, but it's very common in formal writing and educated speech.
You might also see being in sentences like, "Despite being tired, she continued working." Here, being is part of a participle phrase that adds extra information. It's a way to combine ideas smoothly and make your English sound more natural and fluent. These advanced uses come with time and practice.
Another advanced structure is being in the passive voice with continuous tenses. For example, "The problem is being solved by the team," means the team is solving it right now. This is different from "the problem has been solved," which means it's already finished. The choice between is being and has been completely changes the meaning.
So, how can you improve your ability to use these words correctly? The best method is to combine study with practice. First, study the grammar rules and understand the logic behind each form. Then, practice by writing and speaking as much as possible. The more you use these words, the more automatic they'll become.
It's also helpful to create example sentences for yourself based on your own life. Instead of just memorizing textbook examples, write sentences about your experiences, your goals, and your daily activities. For example, I have been learning English for 2 years. Or, I want to be more confident. Or, I am being more careful with my grammar. Personal examples stick in your memory better.
Another great exercise is to take a sentence and change it from one form to another. Start with, I am a teacher. Then change it to, I want to be a teacher. Then, I have been a teacher for 5 years. Then, I am being a good teacher today. This helps you see how the same basic idea can be expressed in different tenses and forms.
You can also practice by listening to English conversations and identifying when people use be, been, and being. When you hear someone say one of these words, pause and think about why they used that form. What tense is it? What's the grammar structure? This kind of active listening builds your awareness and helps you internalize the patterns.
It's important to be patient with yourself as you learn. Even advanced learners sometimes make mistakes with these words because they require a deep understanding of English tenses. If you make an error, don't feel discouraged. Just correct it and move forward. Mistakes are part of the learning process.
And remember, fluency doesn't mean perfection. It means being able to communicate clearly and confidently, even if you occasionally make a small grammar mistake. The goal is to understand the core principles so well that you can use these words correctly most of the time and self-correct when you notice an error.
Let's do a final review of the main points. Be is the base form, used after modals and in infinitives. Been is the past participle, used with have, has, or had in perfect tenses. Being is the present participle, used in continuous tenses or as a gerund. Each form has a specific role, and knowing when to use each one is essential for clear communication.
To make this even simpler, think of it this way. Be is about possibility or future. Been is about experience or completed actions. And being is about ongoing actions or a temporary behavior. This isn't a perfect rule for every situation, but it's a helpful starting point when you're unsure which form to choose.
I also want to emphasize that understanding these words will improve your overall grammar. Because to be is such a fundamental verb in English, mastering its different forms will help you with tenses, passive voice, and sentence construction. It's one of the most important building blocks of the language.
And as you become more comfortable with be, been, and being, you'll find that other grammar concepts become easier too. You'll start to recognize patterns, predict structures, and speak with more confidence. It all connects together, and this knowledge creates a strong foundation for everything else you learn.
Before we finish, let's talk about some real-life situations where these words are especially important. In job interviews, for example, you might be asked, where do you want to be in your career? Or, what have you been working on recently? Your ability to use the correct form shows your language proficiency and helps you communicate professionally.
In everyday conversation, these words come up constantly. You might tell a friend, I've been thinking about you, or I'll be there in 10 minutes, or why are you being so mysterious? Using the right form makes your speech sound natural and fluent. It's not just about grammar, it's about sounding like a confident English speaker.
In writing, especially formal writing like emails or reports, using these words correctly is even more important. Small grammar mistakes can create confusion or make your writing seem less professional. But when you use be, been, and being correctly, your writing flows smoothly and your ideas are expressed clearly.
So take your time with this topic. Review the examples we've discussed, practice creating your own sentences, and pay attention to how these words are used in real English. If you're still feeling uncertain, that's completely normal. This is one of those topics that requires repeated exposure and practice before it feels natural.
And don't forget to use the resources available to you. There are grammar books, online exercises, language apps, and, of course, podcasts like this one. The more you engage with English in different ways, the faster you'll improve. Learning is not just about studying, it's also about immersing yourself in the language.
One last tip. When you're writing or speaking, don't overthink it too much. If you pause for too long trying to decide between been and being, you might lose your confidence or disrupt your flow. Trust your instincts, make your best choice, and keep going. You can always review and correct your work later if needed.
That's excellent advice. Confidence is just as important as accuracy. The more you practice, the more your instincts will improve, and soon you'll be using these words correctly without even thinking about it. That's when you know you've truly mastered them.
So to summarize everything we've covered today, be is the base form, used with modals and infinitives. Been is the past participle, used in perfect tenses. And being is the present participle, used in continuous tenses or as a gerund. Each has a specific purpose, and with practice, you'll know exactly which one to use in any situation.
We've also talked about common mistakes, how to avoid them, and practical ways to practice. Whether you're preparing for an exam, improving your professional English, or just wanting to speak more naturally, understanding these 3 words will make a real difference in your communication. It's a small topic with a big impact.
And remember, every learner goes through this same challenge. You're not alone in finding these words confusing, but with patience, practice, and the right guidance, you will master them. It's just a matter of time and consistent effort. Keep practicing, and you'll see progress.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Easy English Talk Podcast. We hope this discussion has given you clarity and confidence in using be, been, and being. If you found this helpful, please share it with other learners who might benefit from it as well. Your support means the world to us.
And if you enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to explore other helpful episodes on our channel. We cover a wide range of topics to help you improve your English, from grammar and vocabulary to speaking tips and real-life conversations. There's so much more to discover on Easy English Talk Podcast.
Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep growing. We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care and happy learning.